That was a really important game for us because obviously we hadn't played well in the games we had immediately before, and I think for our guys, when you have a bunch of guys in new roles, uh, part of what you need to do early in the season is gain a sense of we can do it. I know that sounds basic, and you would think, hey, at this level, guys should know that. But I don't care what you're doing, whether it's sports or whatever it is. If you haven't done it before in the role where you're doing it, um, there's certainly sometimes a little bit of uneasiness with learning how to do those things, and that's I think what you've seen early in the year. But the second half, the way that the guys attacked it, and the attitude that they had about each other and about what goes into winning, that's really the formula for us to be our best.
Shaka, specifically the effort, the first 5 minutes especially, things didn't all go your guys' way, but they kept going.
Yeah.
Is that what you showed them and talking about on film? It's just this sheer effort that they gave?
Well, yeah, among other things, but it has to start with that, Brian. The best teams play hard, they play smart, and they think team. And so you put play hard first for a reason. Uh, and that's kind of the baseline if you want to be a high level team. But it's not a given. You got to make it happen, and it starts in your mind. It's playing hard is not just about physicality and aggressiveness. It's about a mindset and approach. And I went in the locker room at halftime, and one of the things that we've been trying to work on is not being so bummed out at halftime. And the guys really, they were upbeat, and even though we were down 12, they felt confident about our ability to go out and do what we need to do to win. And I think that carried over.
Shaka, last year you kind of had that theme that you got frustrated that your guys seemed to get bummed out. You seem to bring quite a bit of energy. Does that surprise you that you would have players that would kind of feel that way, the way you seem pretty
No, Raj, because I think just trying to put myself or put ourselves in their shoes. Here's the reality. I think coming into the year for any team, anywhere, people kind of imagine or play out the season the way that they would want it to go in their minds. And you always imagine, as a player, I remember I did this, you always remember a 10 out of 10 imagine a 10 out of 10 season. You imagine all these great things happening, and I think part of what happens is when you start the year, inevitably you realize individually and almost for every team-wise, man, this is talking about it as a player. This is a little harder than I thought, and the reality is, I think in our society, for whatever reason, most people want it to be easy. And so when it's not that way, there's a tendency to get bummed out or get down. And then I think in addition to that, just the reality of being a student athlete and, some of the demands on your time and all that. I think these guys have a great situation. They have a lot to be grateful for. There's so many things they can take advantage of here. But in addition to that, I think if you're in those shoes, sometimes you do feel a level of pressure and a level of just, man, this is a lot. But hey, there's a lot worse things to be doing, and I do think it's one of those things when you look back at it when you're 25 years old or a few years out, or even for Javon and Connor and some of the guys from last year that I talked to now they have a clarity of, man, it was a pretty good deal.
Was there one player that made the biggest stride? Moving forward?
Well, the most important player in that game was Shaq because he set the tone 2 days prior. We had a film session on Wednesday after the UT Arlington game. It was a rather lengthy film session. Usually we watch tape with individual guys or in position groups, smaller groups. But every once in a while you got to get the whole team together. So we did that on Wednesday, and Shaq spoke up at the end of it, and he just said, I'm going to sacrifice myself. He said, I'm not going to worry about myself. He said, I'm going to focus on you guys, talking to the younger guys in the team. And he really led the way in practice on Wednesday and on Thursday. And it's amazing what happens when you do that. It ends up, being one of his better games in his career.
So it sounds like some of the things that you're talking about, getting to play hard and all these are things that a first-year coach would say. And I wonder, does this really feel like your first year that you're going through, because you had all the experience last year?
Yeah.
And does this feel like more like what a first year should be?
Well, I was texting with Javon last night because, I've been watching our Michigan game from last year. And first of all, I turned the Michigan game on. This was, I think, on Saturday. My wife was there. I was at the kitchen table. And I paused it right as the ball was going up. And we looked at who was out there. And it's Connor and Javon and DeMarcus and Isaiah and Cam. But I was texting with Javon and just said, man, wish we had wish we had another year with you guys. Every college coach could, I'm sure, say that about guys that have moved on. But in some ways, this really is, like a first year. I think that that's just the reality of, when you take over a team, the roster may have, certain attributes to it that are out of your control. And then in basketball, you can do the best you can recruiting-wise, but even then, it's going to take some time to get it where you want it to be. But this all happens in real time. We still have games and we still have opportunities, and, we're going up to Michigan tonight to play tomorrow. And I think we have some really good young players that if we can keep helping them get better and grow and learn what goes into their own success and the team's success, that we can really make progress.
Shaka, what are the steps that Andrew Jones needs to take at the point that really kind of
He's got a lot of potential. He really does, and he wants to be good. He is a kid that has a background of work. He's used to working. His father's a coach, and then his uncle's a guy named Andre Patterson who played in the NBA, played for Bobby Knight at Indiana, and his mom was an athlete. His sister is a terrific player at Baylor. So he comes from a background of all those people I named are workers. And Andrew, I remember we were recruiting him last year, communicating with him on almost a daily basis, and every night he would go to 24-hour fitness. And that was, in addition to the practices that he had and games he had, he'd be going there late at night and working on his game. And the other day, I forget what game it was, but he was coming off a game where he didn't feel like he played as well because he is pretty hard on himself. And I told him, I said, Cooley is your 24-hour fitness now. And he's really been doing a good job of putting in work. So I think it starts with that, to answer your question. Watching tape on a regular basis to understand the intricacies of the point guard position. I think he has it in him. I know he has it in him. But to play that position and master that position, that takes time and experience and understanding. And I think in the short term, it starts with sometimes just making a simple play and, making sure your team gets from point A to point B in what you're trying to do offensively, because the better the competition that you're playing, the less likely that home run play is going to work out on a regular basis.
Shaka, Matthew Johnson always said that you got to add something to your game every offseason to keep moving forward to get better. Tevin Lang seems like he's got a little bit more variety to his game. What did he work on this offseason?
Well, he got stronger. I mean, his body is just sturdier, and Roos and his staff deserve a lot of credit, but Tevin put the work in. Tevin deserves the most credit. When he first got here, the weight room and all the strength and conditioning stuff was not really his cup of tea, but he's really attacked in that area over the last several months, and his body has changed. I mean, he's physically an impressive kid. He's got a 7-foot wingspan. He's gotten better on the defensive end, I think largely because of the improvements he's made physically, and then just a want to. He has more of a want to there. Shooting, last year he got off to a really rough start, if you remember. I mean, it was like 1 for 20 or something like that.
Threes. He seems like he's one of the right.
Yeah, he is, and that was what he was comfortable with. I mean, sometimes when you're a freshman, you just try to go to what you're comfortable with. But again, I think it all comes back to strength and conditioning, because what allows you to attack the basket a little bit more is being stronger and being more aggressive. He still has another jump in him that he can make during the season. The key for Tevin is just trying to own our process. And when we talk about that with these guys, they don't have to do it 6 months at a time. They just have to do it one day at a time and just win today. Whatever goes into us being successful on and off the court, just follow that plan and trust that it's going to work out well for you. And if he can do that, I think he's going to have a really good season.
Shaka, did you feel like that second half was the first time it really clicked for these guys, or have you seen it, before that?
In games?
Yeah, well, or just in general. I mean, just in practice, you see them doing things.
It comes incrementally. I mean, unfortunately, as I said after the game, you'd love for it to click, and then you bottle it up and then bring it out again in the next game or whenever you need it. But guys have had their moments where it's really clicked and it's made a lot of sense to them. Hey, this is what really works. And what I really was pleased with more than anything in the second half was there was a genuine care and concern about the two things that I value most, which is a process of what goes into winning and guys about each other, caring about each other. So I think maybe it's because we were losing at the half, or maybe they really wanted to win, but we dropped some of our individuality, for a time, which in basketball is, it's not a given, but that's what the best teams do in the most important moments.
Who had more joy and relief in the locker room afterward, the coaching staff or the players?
Players probably had more joy, and we probably had more relief. That's usually how it works, right?
Mm-hmm.
The challenge when you have young guys is trying to keep somewhat of an even keel, because there's a tendency to get too high or too low after good moments or down moments. So I think the guys really felt good about what they were able to do in that second half, and they should. But understanding that we've got a lot of work to do, the way the schedule fell, we had Saturday as an off day because you have to take one a week. So I just try to hit them Friday night going into Saturday with just keeping a mindset of wanting to grow, wanting to understand what goes into success, and knowing that it's not a given. You have to make it happen.
Is there that point to prove going on the road again after what happened
I think so. I mean, there is for me. We have to create that as a team. You know, I think the best teams find a way always to have something to prove, and you know, whether it's because you feel like you know, people are doubting you, or whether it's because you don't feel like you've been respected enough, or whether it's whatever the reason is, you have to have something to prove, and that's going to be a big key. But now for us to go in a hostile environment for the first time, because New York, those were neutral games, and now it's a road game. Just the observer in me is really excited to see how our guys respond as a team and also individually to that. And I think that's part of being a coach is just to really be someone that watches to see, you know, how guys react.
Do you have players watch film of certain players like Kerwin? Do you have him watch film of certain NBA guys? Or
Sometimes, yeah, we do. In fact, we just, not with Kerwin, but with our freshmen. I think you guys have heard me talk about our freshman orientation that we do once a week. We just showed our guys some film of a guy named DeJounte Murray, who we played against last year at University of Washington, and it was actually film of him with the Austin Spurs. And we use guys like him sometimes just to demonstrate that the process continues even at that next level of growth and learning and humility and understanding that you're not all the way there yet.
I would expect Eric will have a sizable family contingent there tomorrow night. Do you think it helped him to get that push layup, kind of break him off the side? It was a big bucket at the time.
It helped our team, and I do think it helped him, even though it was just 2 points. I mean, it was kind of a feeling for him of putting the ball back in the basket after, you know, the previous game not having done so. He's a great kid, and he wants to be a leader on our team, and he wants to be as good of a basketball player as he can. He's a very talented kid. He just needs to understand that the stuff that goes into his success is not going to change, and there's a certain set of components to his success that those things that he controls, that's what he needs to focus on. We showed him yesterday some film of actually himself against Michigan as a freshman down in the Bahamas. And he played really, really well in those games down there, if you remember, just because he was a young kid who didn't know any better, who was aggressive and a little bit arrogant, and but he fought, and he's got to start there. He's got to start with the aggressiveness and fighting. He's pumped up. I mean, he's been a little subdued lately, just because he's not played as well as he wants to. But you know, as a coach, when you can, you try to get your guys that are further away from home a chance to play somewhere close, and it. It's working out pretty well for us this year, playing at Michigan, and then later on we play at Georgia, where James is from, close to where Tevin's from. So he's excited. I know his family's excited. He's got this kind of certain way about him about the Michigan schools, because I don't know what went down during the recruiting process or how all that worked out. You know, Eric's a chip on your shoulder guy, but I know he's excited about going home.
I know trying to get guys to play with a clear mind has been a point of emphasis for you. Is the press, when you're using the spurts, is that doing it for them? It seems like they kind of just play rather than think more.
Well, it adds to our aggressiveness, and I think, you don't want to get behind in the game. I mean, you want to be leading. But one of the things about being behind is, now you're going after something. And I do think that when we go to our full court press, it allows us to be more aggressive and more of a mindset of, hey, we're going to set the tone here. I do think it's important in this Michigan game specifically. It's really important we get off to a good start. Obviously we overcame a tough start against Alabama, but you just don't want to get in the mode of starting the game down 10-2.